Good afternoon, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Today on Newsfeed at noon, Vice President Sara Duterte breaking her silence 2 days after she was impeached by House lawmakers.
Ang tanging masasabi ko na lamang sa puntong ito ay God save the Philippines.
4 people are killed when a U.S. military plane crashed in Maguindanao del Sur. U.S. President Donald Trump sanctions the International Criminal Court for supposed baseless actions against America and Israel. And the trailer for the latest film in the Jurassic World franchise is out. We'll give you a look at Jurassic World Rebirth later in the show. Thanks for joining us. We begin with this breaking news. Vice President Sara Duterte finally speaking out after the House of Representatives impeached her on Wednesday. That's for alleged violations to the Constitution, betrayal of public trust, and graft and corruption, among others. Let's bring in Agatha Gregorio for more on this. Agatha, there was a long Q&A with the press after her statement. What else did the Vice President say?
No backing down for the Vice President for now. Mai Duterte just told the media it is too early to think about resigning as she awaits the impeachment trial against her. But before that, she gave a brief, simple statement. Let's listen in.
Sa mga nakaraang araw, marami ang humihingi ng reaksyon, komento o damdamin. Damdamin ko sa issue ng impeachment na naihain laban sa akin. Sa kabila ng aking mga naging pahayag ukol sa planong impeachment sa mga nakaraan na buwan, ang tanging masasabi ko na lamang sa puntong ito ay God save the Philippines. Bukod dito, nais ko na lang ipaabot ang aking taus-pusong pasasalamat sa mga kababayan na patuloy na nagdarasal, sumusuporta, nagtitiwala, at patuloy na nagmamahal sa akin. Manalig kayo dahil sa taong bayan ang tagumpay.
They have been preparing since November 2023, the moment Congresswoman Franz Castro talked about the impeachment plan. The Vice President also said her father is welcome to join her defense team, but she may advise him against leading it because of his age. We can recall that just on Wednesday, the articles of impeachment were transmitted from the House, charging Duterte with violating the Constitution, betrayal of public trust, graft and corruption, and other high crimes. But Senate President Cheese Escudero said the impeachment trial will not happen until June 2nd. On that day, session will resume. Mai?
Agatha, conviction means she would be removed from office, but what would be the political implications for the Vice President should she be convicted?
Yes, Mai, other than what you mentioned, Duterte would be disqualified from running for public office. And she did just say earlier they have long been seriously considering running in 2028 for the presidency, but it is difficult to decide without the numbers. Mai?
Thank you. Agatha Gregorio there reporting. In a press conference on Thursday, President Bongbong Marcos denied involvement in Sara Duterte's impeachment. Marcos insisted the executive branch didn't play any role at all in the impeachment process. He also said he merely told his son, Congressman Sandro Marcos, to fulfill his duties as a lawmaker. The younger Marcos was the first signatory in the impeachment complaint.
Executive cannot have a hand in the impeachment. Walang role ang executive sa impeachment. Of course, did we discuss it with the Speaker? Did we discuss it with the other congressman? Of course. And tinatanong, anong plano ninyo? Ano ba talagang gusto ninyong gawin? And that's it. Well, nandito na ito. Hindi na namin maiwasan. Sabi ko kay Kong Sandro, sabi ko sa kanya, the process has already begun. So, it's your duty now to support that process. So do your duty. That's what I told him. Do your duty. You have to support the process. You are constitutionally mandated to carry out that process. And you're a congressman, so do your duty. That's what I told him. I didn't know you'd be the first to sign, though.
The president also said he is open to calling a special session of Congress to proceed with the impeachment trial if the Senate asks for it.
If the Senate President calls me up on the telephone, the senators, kinausap ko yung mga senator kung pwede ba mag-special session, sure, gagawin ko. Pero kung wala silang request na ganun, ibig sabihin may iba pa silang ginagawa. They're not yet ready.
An election lawyer says the current Senate must conclude the impeachment trial by June 13 this year. On Bilyonaryo News Channel's agenda, Romulo Macalintal says pending legislative matters, including impeachment trials, are considered terminated at the end of a congressional term. That's based on the Supreme Court ruling on the Garciliano versus the House of Representatives case back in 2008.
Yung bagong Senado, yung mga bagong miyembro niyan, ay hindi naman nakagapos ang kamay nila kung ano ang ginawa ng lumang Senado. They are not bound by the actions and deliberations ng old Senate.
Several lawmakers deny posts on social media alleging they were rewarded for the impeachment of Vice President Duterte. They insist the move was an independent action. Zandro Ochona has more.
A House member is accusing critics of spreading fake news after the House of Representatives impeached Vice President Sara Duterte. A post on Facebook says his constituents will receive cash aid after he signed the fourth impeachment complaint. The post adds Speaker Martin Romualdez increased their budget allocation.
The impeachment complaint has form and substance, kaya na-approve talaga siya sa House with 215 votes. So, ano lang talaga to, black propaganda lang talaga, pang paninira sa atin. And then, tingin ko, yung Facebook post na yun, naka-boost.
Suwan maintained he signed the impeachment complaint out of principle. Other lawmakers stood by their colleague.
This was an independent action. We believe that's done faithfully and truthfully by each member, that they signified their intention and support of the impeachment complaint based on the merits of the case and nothing more.
They also warned the public not to believe misinformation.
Huwag ho tayong madadala sa ganitong klaseng fake news. Kasi ito po ay paraan para ilihis kung ano po yung talagang merits nitong prosesong ito. Meron pong betrayal of public trust, meron pong mismanagement and yung utilization ng pondo ng bayan.
Despite these fake news, several members of the House Prosecution Panel are confident they have a strong case against the VP. But they leave to the Senate leadership to decide when to begin the impeachment trial.
Since the Constitution provides that a trial shall proceed forthwith, if we interpret forthwith, dapat po sana as soon as possible yon. But since the Senate is an independent body, and we respect their independence, being a bicameral legislature, we will leave that to the interpretation of the Senate.
Zandro Ochona, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
In other news, tragedy in Maguindanao del Sur, where a U.S. military surveillance flight carrying 4 people crashed on Thursday. Jamela Alindogan tells us no one survived.
A U.S. military aircraft has crashed in Ampatuan, Maguindanao del Sur while conducting a surveillance mission. All 4 people on board, 1 U.S. service member, and 3 defense contractors were killed. The aircraft contracted by the U.S. Department of Defense was supporting Philippine forces as part of a long-standing security cooperation agreement. The cause of the crash remains unknown and an investigation is underway. American reconnaissance flights have long been a fixture in the southern Philippines, particularly at the height of counterterrorism operations in the early 2000s. Their presence was also pronounced during the 2017 battle against ISIS-linked fighters in Marawi. For decades, the U.S. and the Philippines have engaged in joint military operations, with American forces providing intelligence and logistical support in key conflicts. This latest crash underscores the risks of such missions and the broader geopolitical stakes in the region. Authorities have yet to determine what went wrong, and more updates are expected as the investigation continues. Jamela Alindogan, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
As the International Criminal Court inches closer to wrapping up its probe on the Duterte drug war, the Philippine government signals its willingness to cooperate. But as legal hurdles and questions of accountability loom, can justice prevail for the thousands who lost their lives? Jamela Alindogan returns with this report.
The Philippines has signaled openness to cooperating with the International Criminal Court in its investigation into alleged crimes against humanity committed during former President Rodrigo Duterte's so-called war on drugs, provided such requests are channeled through Interpol. The ICC is investigating thousands of killings linked to former President Duterte's anti-drug campaign, which was launched in 2016. Activists claim the campaign led to systematic executions disguised as self-defense. Accusations Duterte and law enforcement agencies deny. Official records cite over 6,200 deaths in anti-drug operations, but rights groups estimate the death toll could be as high as 30,000. Most of those killed come from the poorest sector of society. Duterte's so-called war on drugs has long been called a war against the poor. During a congressional hearing a few months ago, Duterte appeared to challenge the ICC.
I'm asking the ICC to hurry up, and if possible, they can come here and start the investigation tomorrow.
The Philippines withdrew from the ICC in 2019, yet the court asserts jurisdiction over crimes committed while the country was a member.
In my opinion, I think they will issue the warrant of arrest. Now, can they enforce the warrant of arrest? Because the trial will not proceed unless ICC has custody of the accused, has custody of Duterte. So, what will Duterte do? He will go to the Supreme Court to question the arrest or the enforcement of the arrest, because he will say that there's no treaty anymore. We're no longer a member of ICC, and under the Philippine extradition law, it says a person can be extradited only to a country where there is an existing extradition law. And there is no existing extradition law with the ICC. So it will be decided by the Supreme Court, unless the president on his own will invoke the Philippine International Humanitarian Law, which authorizes him to decide whether to turn over an accused to ICC for prosecution, because that's in the law, and that's independent of membership in the ICC.
While Duterte has expressed a willingness to face potential consequences, critics argue that global politics and selective justice continue to cast a shadow over the ICC's effectiveness. The ICC, established in 2002 to prosecute war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity, faces mounting criticism for perceived inequities. Arrest warrants for powerful political figures are rare, while trials disproportionately target mid-level African rebel commanders. This year, apart from 2 verdicts, only 1 trial is expected to proceed. The court currently has 12 ongoing investigations, with 5 completed cases and around 10 public arrest warrants, including Libya, Ukraine, Sudan, and Palestine. Cases in the Philippines, Venezuela, and Afghanistan remain under investigation without public warrants, furthering fuel questions about the court's reach and relevance.
Even if the ICC proceeds with arrest warrants, the road to justice remains fraught. The ICC does not have its own enforcement mechanism and is dependent on member states to make the arrests. This exposes the ICC's ability to hold powerful abusive leaders accountable. Jamela Alindogan, Insight, BNC.
U.S. President Donald Trump sanctions the ICC for what he claims are baseless actions targeting America and Israel. Under his executive order, financial and visa restrictions will be placed on individuals and their families who assist in the court's investigations of American citizens or allies. Trump issued that order as Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is on a visit to Washington. Last November, the ICC issued an arrest warrant for Netanyahu over alleged war crimes in Gaza. Israel also following the U.S. in withdrawing from the United Nations Human Rights Council. Israel has long criticized the organization of being biased. While the council has no legally binding power, its debates carry political weight, and its scrutiny can raise global pressure on governments to change course.
In the face of this blatant anti-Semitism perpetrated by mandate holders, the Human Rights Council is silent. The Council, as well as the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, systematically favors one party to the conflict and advance a narrative under which Palestinians and their institutions have no obligations and duties under international law. We hope that the UN system will be able to undergo deep structural reforms that would end the politicization of human rights. Until then, Israel feels compelled to not engage with the Human Rights Council. We are very close to the United States, but this step was not coordinated. We have been for a long time complaining about the things that I mentioned today, and this was a very good opportunity following the step of President Trump to also take our step that would have happened probably anyway.
Pope Francis is suffering from bronchitis. He will be conducting his activities at his residence in the Vatican in the coming days. The Pontiff on Thursday held his scheduled audiences there instead of at the Apostolic Palace. The Pope turned 88 in December. In Britain, King Charles holds an audience with Jordan's King Abdullah at Buckingham Palace. The two monarchs expressed pride in the deep-rooted ties between the Kingdom of Jordan and the United Kingdom on Thursday. According to a statement from the royal court, King Abdullah said Jordan seeks to further advance relations with the UK. Their discussions covered boosting cooperation across all sectors. Meanwhile, Prince William visited a Scottish community centre where he tried his hand at building a wooden birdhouse. William's visit to Scotland is focused on organizations that help tackle rural isolation and loneliness. A break up next. Mitsubishi announces plans to invest 7 billion pesos in the Philippines. The details when Newsfeed at Noon returns. You're back on Newsfeed at noon. Manila police raid a facility producing fake PWD IDs. 3 people were arrested. Police also seized computers, printers, and other tools used to manufacture the counterfeit cards. Investigators say the fake IDs were being sold for just 200 pesos each. Authorities warn of more such raids amid complaints from businesses that they're being defrauded by the illegal operation. Most Filipinos believe the Marcos administration is not doing enough to control the rise in prices of goods and services. A Strat-based and SWS poll shows 58% find the inflation response insufficient, while only 16% are satisfied. The survey was conducted from January 17 to 20th. Government data had showed inflation remained at 2.9% last month. The Philippines could lose over $1 billion in export revenues due to U.S. President Donald Trump's trade war. A study by the Congressional Policy and Budget Research Department points out higher taxes may be placed on machinery, electronic equipment, coconut products, and seafood, all big exports for the country. The estimated $1 billion loss makes up 10% of what the Philippines exported to America last year, which reached $12.12 billion. An oversupply of condominium units said to be weighing on the market. And as Sujin Kim tells us, the road to recovery could be long for the real estate sector.
Metro Manila's condo market faces a massive oversupply, with vacant units expected to take more than 8 years or 98 months to be fully absorbed by the market. This, according to the latest data from Colliers International Philippines. According to Colliers' head of research, Joey Bondoc, high housing prices and mortgage rates have driven vacancy rates up, which was exacerbated by the exit of POGO operators from the country, leaving more units sitting empty. As a result, both rental and sale prices for condos continue to drop, with a projected 1.5% decline in 2025. While mid-range units struggle to sell, luxury condos remain in high demand, even selling out quickly due to limited supply.
You have the likes of Hotel 101 in Cebu. This is sold out already. You have the likes of Moncelio, Crest by DMCI. This is in Benguet.
Colliers also noted a direct link between presidential elections and condo sales. Demand spikes during election years, with sales jumping 40% after both Duterte and Marcos's wins.
It appears that presidential elections are having a positive impact on condominium sales in Metro Manila. This also covers President Marcos. A year after he was elected, the condo sales increased by about 40%, up to 225 billion pesos. Now, where's the money coming from? Where your guess is as good as mine.
Meanwhile, the impact of the POGO ban goes beyond condos. Office spaces were also hit hard. Over 260,000 square meters of office space was vacated due to the POGO exodus.
So we're not expecting the net demand to remain negative. It's really the shock of the POGO exodus because of the ban.
This year, they project that the office market will continue to face oversupply issues.
We expect a major supply carryover from 2024. We are seeing that vacancy might push up to above 20% by year end.
Collier says this presents an opportunity for businesses to negotiate better leasing terms. Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Mitsubishi is investing 7 billion pesos in the Philippines over the next 5 years. Its president and CEO, Takao Kato, made that announcement during a courtesy call with President Bongbong Marcos. The Presidential Communications Office says the investment includes a new production model to be built at the company's plant in Laguna. Marcos asserts the investment is a boost for local vehicle manufacturing and job creation. Up ahead, President Bongbong Marcos says a congressman's dismissive statements on the West Philippine Sea are just a political move to grab headlines. That and more when Newsfeed at Noon returns.
I think there are still a very small fraction of our employees that think that they can get away with it. And that's being investigated. There are systems in place to identify some of our personnel are still engaged in this illicit activity. And if they're caught, they're being prosecuted and dismissed from the service. Most of it are being smuggled at the southern part of the Philippines where, of course, there are open seas. And it would be a little bit of a challenge for the Bureau to guard them. That's why we've worked with the Philippine Navy and the Philippine Coast Guard to guard our open waters because sophistication in smuggling activities of syndicates and other unscrupulous persons have pointed out to smuggling in the high seas already.
Beauty, adventure.
I do agree with that. I would rather spend my money on travel.
We got you. Join Marie Lozano where she uncovers the untold stories and surprises in the world of lifestyle.
Love it! Let me get my geek on. That was so amazing.
The Lifestyle Lab on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News.
You're back on Newsfeed at noon. Again, the headlines. Vice President Sara Duterte breaking her silence 2 days after she was impeached by House lawmakers.
Ang tanging masasabi ko na lamang sa puntong ito ay God save the Philippines.
4 people are killed when a U.S. military plane crashed in Maguindanao del Sur. U.S. President Donald Trump sanctions the International Criminal Court for supposed baseless actions against America and Israel. And the trailer for the latest film in the Jurassic World franchise is finally released. President Bongbong Marcos laughing off Congressman Rodante Marcoleta's statements denying the existence of the West Philippine Sea. During a House hearing on misinformation, Marcoleta claimed the maritime territory does not officially exist on maps and is just, quote, a creation by us. Marcos deems those remarks as a political move to get the public's attention.
When I see him, lulukuhin ko siya. He's a candidate, so he has to grab headlines, di ba? So tama yung ginawa na for a candidate. Ngayon, ever talking about him na. magaling talaga siya sa ganyan.
Marcoleta's statements did not sit well with the Philippine Coast Guard. It comes as the country boosts maritime cooperation with allies amid China's aggressive behavior in the West Philippine Sea. Francis Falve reports.
Naval and Air Force units from the Philippines, Australia, Japan, and America joined forces in a multilateral maritime cooperative activity in the West Philippine Sea. The objective, to further strengthen the cooperation and interoperability of the armed forces of the 4 nations and demonstrate a stronger alliance in the Indo-Pacific region. AFP Public Affairs Office Chief Colonel Cerces Trinidad said 4 vessels participated in the exercise. Hamas Hobart and the P-8A Poseidon from Australia, JS Akisuki from Japan, and USSS Benfold and another P-8A Poseidon from America. He added that they monitored some Chinese vessels, but these were far from the area of operation.
So far, everything is very smooth naman sa mga ginagawa sa mga nakikipong maneuvering exercises.
The operational exercises included communication check exercises or COMEX, maritime domain awareness, and an anti-submarine warfare exercise. According to the AFP, the exercise was a success. Exercises like these are important amid the growing tensions in the West Philippine Sea as they demonstrate the strong alliance the Philippines has with other nations. According to the Pentagon, Defense Secretary Gilberto Chodoro Jr. and U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth held an introductory call to discuss defense operation. The discussion also covered the importance of countering challenges in the South China Sea. The U.S. administration also emphasized the strong commitment of the United States to the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty in ensuring a secure and prosperous Indo-Pacific. Meanwhile, Commodore J. Tariela, spokesperson for the Philippine Coast Guard on the West Philippine Sea, refuted a statement made by Sagip Party List Representative Rodante Marcoleta, denying the existence of the West Philippine Sea on official maps.
There is nothing as West Philippine Sea. Wala po yun. That is a creation by us. Sa totoo lang po, kahit nabasahin mo yung ating mapa or what, there is no West Philippine Sea. Ang West Philippine Sea, yun po yung area na kiniklaim natin, ito yung exclusive economic zone. The complications of the West Philippine Sea has not been explained to our people. Kaya po, nagiging vulnerable tayong lahat eh.
In a post on X, Tariela said, those who claim the government invented the term West Philippine Sea are doing a disservice and bringing embarrassment to their party, organization, and even their own family. The West Philippine Sea covers the Philippines' 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone, officially coined during the administration of President Benigno Aquino III. The term is also recognized under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Francis Polbe, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Another U.S. judge indefinitely blocks President Donald Trump's order to end birthright citizenship. The judge in Seattle extended his previous ruling that put a 14-day stop to the president's policy. He now says the policy is unconstitutional and that Trump is ignoring the rule of law for political and personal gain. The ruling came following a lawsuit by the states of Washington, Arizona, Illinois, and Oregon, and several pregnant women. A federal judge in Maryland issued a similar injunction earlier this week.
And what we're facing right now in this country is the Trump administration moving 100 miles an hour in 100 different areas and on a daily basis breaking the law, violating the United States Constitution. And that is, I think, a reinforcement from my perspective why it's so important to have multiple cases being brought across this country to make sure that we are responding with the same urgency that we're seeing to the lawlessness from Washington, D.C.
A federal judge also temporarily blocked Thursday's deadline for federal employees to accept Trump's deferred resignation offer. The offer will allow them to leave their jobs but be paid through the end of September. But the judge in Boston halted its implementation as he receives more briefings on whether it should be blocked. It came after the American Federation of Government Employees and several other unions filed a lawsuit against the program. The next hearing is scheduled for Monday. Federal unions have urged members not to accept the package, questioning its legality and the ability of the Trump administration to follow through on its promises. At least 50,000 employees have reportedly accepted Trump's buyout offer. Australia passes tough anti-hate crime laws in a bid to tackle a recent surge in anti-Semitism. The new measures will impose jail time of up to 1 year for less serious hate crimes, like giving a Nazi salute in public, and 6 years for those found guilty of terrorism offenses. Recent months have seen an escalation of attacks on synagogues, buildings, and cars of Jewish community members across Australia. A caravan laden with explosives was also discovered with a list of Jewish targets in Sydney.
Well, the circumstances that we are confronting in our community are so extreme that it requires changes to the law. In fact, I don't believe the laws as they're currently constituted adequately confront this danger, this hate speech danger in our community. Now, we reflected on the Law Reform Commission's recommendations to government. We didn't immediately reject it. We looked at other jurisdictions and what they were doing in relation to changes to hate speech laws. We also looked at field evidence, what was happening on the ground.
Over to Buenos Aires, Argentina, where a river turns an intense red due to suspected toxic spills. Authorities have collected water samples from the river to find out the cause of the discoloration. Residents believe the red hue might be due to chemical waste from a nearby depot. The river flows into the Rio de la Plata and borders an ecological reserve. We're taking another breather up next. A look at the latest film in the Jurassic World franchise. This is Newsfeed at noon. Stay with us. You're still watching Newsfeed at noon. Italy begins counting down to its hosting of the 2026 Winter Olympics. February 6 marks 1 year before the Games, and Italian ski resorts in the Dolomites are getting ready to co-host the event, marking the return of the Games to a traditional European venue for the first time in 2 decades. Cortina and Milan will serve as the primary hosts, with 5 additional venues across northern Italy. Milan will host the opening ceremony at the iconic San Siro Stadium. The closing ceremony will take place at the historic Verona Arena, a Roman amphitheater dating back to the 1st century. Hoop fans and sneakerheads now get a chance to see firsthand a memento from one of Kobe Bryant's definitive moments. The shoes Kobe wore in his so-called Achilles game are in display in New York ahead of its auction this week. They are estimated to sell by as much as $800,000, or roughly over 46 million pesos. The Achilles game took place in 2013, in which Kobe powered through pain to sink a pair of free throws, showcasing his legendary iron will. New York Fashion Week is officially underway. This year's event kicked off with 3 designers presenting their collections at the New York Men's Day. They showcased a range of styles from technical ski wear to nostalgic pieces and cozy ensembles. More than 60 designers are expected to unveil their new collections until February 11. In entertainment, rap megastar Kendrick Lamar promises to bring his brand of storytelling to Super Bowl 59. The 17-time Grammy Award winner will headline the halftime show of NFL's grandest spectacle this weekend in New Orleans. Lamar says fans can expect to hear the tale of his rise from humble beginnings to rap superstardom.
Storytelling. I think I've always been very open about storytelling through all my catalog and my history of music. And I've always had a passion about bringing that on whatever stage I'm on, you know, whether it's a war tour or whether it's 500 people at Key Club. I've always had a form of that. So I like to be on that sense of, you know, make people listen, but also see and think a little.
A new era is coming to Jurassic World, and with it are 3 new terrifying dinosaurs. Here's a sneak peek at Jurassic World Rebirth, featuring Scarlett Johansson as Zora Bennett and Jonathan Bailey as Dr. Henry Loomis. And before we go, dozens of abandoned cats found a safe haven in cat sanctuaries put up by ultra Bilyonaryo Enrique Razon. G. Baroga with a story.
Off-duty, ultra-Bilyonaryo Enrique Razon is known as the ultimate animal lover, and it's easy to see why. He's behind the cat sanctuaries at Soler North in Quezon City and Soler Entertainment City or SEC in Parañaque. These give abandoned, abused, and special needs cats a safe, loving space to call home. The sanctuaries are not just shelters, they're long-term care havens where the cats get love, medical attention, and a stress-free environment. The one at SEC started out as a small shelter before it was renovated in October last year, the same time when the sanctuary at Soler North was built. Right now, there are about 40 cats at SEC and 20 at Soler North, all under the eyes of security 24/7, making sure they're well fed 3 times a day. Every cat is neutered, dewormed, and vaccinated, and yes, they are all up for adoption. Just like how Razon adopted a stray cat right in front of his house, whom he named Kim Jong-un. G. Baraga, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
And those are the news this hour. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Keep it here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Good afternoon.